Hey there folks, and welcome back for another sofa session. It's been a long time, but I'm due, and I got a topic today that I think is important. But before I do that, I'm going to prove I'm not an elitist by just drinking a little Johnny Walker Black. Nothing fancy, it's not even single malt, can you believe that? But it's still whiskey. You know, I don't drink a lot really, but during these sofa sessions, I like to have a dram now and then. Sort of helps things along. And if you'll excuse me, I'm going to take a little sniff. Not bad. Not bad at all. Let's set this aside and then we will get down to business. Set that aside. Something I want to make clear at the onset of this video. Whenever anybody is making a case of any sort, you have to always keep in your mind what's in it for them. All right, what do they have to gain by making this case to you? Are they selling you something? Or are they trying to convince you for a reason? So when you come to watch my videos, I'm merely sharing my experience with you. All right? I'm not in this for money. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm sharing my experience as it happens. And I'm learning like the rest of you and have been for the last number of years. And when I say something, it's what I mean. All right? And sometimes my opinion changes, but that's okay. It's very important to always keep that in mind, though, when you're watching these videos. Whoever is doing the talking or whoever is advertising, what do they have to gain? It doesn't mean they're incorrect when they have something to gain. It just means you have to keep that into consideration and take that in that piece of information and sort of keep it in mind, right? So you're here today watching, and I'm going to pass on something that I feel is pretty important. And this has become a controversial subject, although it shouldn't be. It doesn't need to be. It doesn't have to be. What I'm doing is simply sharing my experience. And this started a number of months ago when I was on the phone with David Fernicola, the inspector. And I happened to open one of my soaps, and I noticed it was almost entirely devoid of scent. And I was like, man, this is odd. This soap has almost no scent. And I started thinking about it, and it's one I had bloomed, and then I grabbed a few others. And then I took one that I'd had in a tin and transferred it to a larger bowl. And I scooped it out, and at the bottom there was a black substance. I don't know if it was mold, I don't know what, but I know I don't want to use it. Or I knew I didn't want to use it. So at that time I came out and said, hey, I don't think perhaps it's a great idea to bloom your soaps. Here's what can happen. And I received a lot of blowback on that. People accused me of lying, making it up, all the rest, which is ridiculous. No one can tell me what my experience is. I was here. It happened. The mistake that I made then was I didn't capture that on video or in photos, right? So some time passed, and I happened to be looking through an old set of drawers I have, and I found a soap I didn't know I had, and it was in a tin. I said, well, this ought to be interesting. Of course, Leroy is barking, and now Lexi too. Stand by. All right, moving right along. Anyway, so I get this soap, and I said, well, what if I simulate a blooming type scenario on this soap in a tin? So what I did was I poured a little water on the top, just the same as if I would bloom it. And then I poured it off, and I put the cap back on. All right? I didn't allow it to air out. Put the cap back on. So there was still some moisture in that tin. And I want to show you what has happened over the, I think, 2 months that it's been sitting. Here you have the tin, and the brand of the soap doesn't matter at all. It has nothing to do with this brand. I'm simply showing you what has happened. First of all, you see this white stuff all around the soap? I don't know what that is. Is it mold? Probably not, but I know I don't want to use the soap. Look at all this brown stuff. I had to pry the lid to get it off because it was stuck, because it's rusting. Water evidently got between the wall of this soap and the tin. And tins, which we were told could not rust, look at it. In fact, take a look at a few still photos. Maybe you can see it better. Take a look. All right, so you see there what can happen. Am I saying this is going to happen to you? Absolutely not. But can it happen? Yes, because you're looking at it. This is not a soap you would use. And all I did was left moisture in there and capped it off and left it set along with the rest of my soaps. You are seeing the result. And this, by the way, is a gummy. It's like something happened to the soap. It's a gummy. It's not sticky. It's just gummy. It's not slick. The soap is almost entirely devoid of scent. It was not prior to me putting the moisture to the soap. This is what happened, folks. Water, the same water that I use to shave every day with every other soap, putting this in the same place that I store all the rest of my other soaps at room temperature. Here is your result. That looks a lot like rust. I'm not a chemist, and I'm not going to have it tested. In fact, I'll throw this out after this video, or maybe let my son shoot it with his airsoft gun or something. I don't know. I'll throw it out. But anyway, the bottom line here is, this is what can happen, and I don't know what that is. You got to think about something, and let me just explain this in a different way. Stand by. And I brought this cup because I wanted to tell you about, over the holiday, I was off work about a week or so, and I used this cup at work, and it has a lid, and it's even got the drink hole there, and the other little vent there, so it can actually breathe a little bit. So I had water in this, just a little bit in the bottom. And after being off for a little over a week, when I got back, guess what was happening in this cup at the bottom? Now it's now washed out. But guess what was happening? Mold. With just water. And my germs or pollutants or whatever, plus water, left set with this cap on, even with these holes in it, was developing mold. Just water. Folks, can we say conclusively that you can't get mold in your soap? No. Because I've seen people's soaps that look a lot like mold growing on them. Does it happen often? No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Is it a common problem? No. Can bad things happen? Yes, you are seeing it. All right? Water, a little bit of water. Turn it upside down, poured it out, capped it off. So what I'm here to tell you is, if you are blooming, if you want to be 100% safe and still bloom, take your soap sample or your puck. Scoop out a little piece, about this size. Put it in a bowl, press it down in there, and you can get several shaves off that even if you want. Bloom it this way. Just cut a little bitty piece off, a sliver. You're going to be safe because your water's not going to, there's no chance of anything happening really to your puck. You cut a little piece off, you cap it back, it's never gotten wet. You don't have to worry about this when you bloom it in a different container. If you want to bloom, bloom. If you want to bloom in the container, as you always have, do it. But I'm here to tell you, again, if you leave water in containers and you cap it off, and that water remains, bad things can likely happen, as happened here. And by the way, I'm not the only one that this has ever happened to. Stand by. A little drink. Because 2 years before me ever thinking about doing this, another individual, who I won't mention his name because I don't have permission, and razor and brush, he and I were talking about these very tins, and he had ordered a number of them, maybe more than 2 years ago. And they developed rust. And this has nothing whatsoever to do with the brand. I cannot emphasize this enough. This has nothing to do with this brand at all. Zero. All right? The bottom line was moisture was in there. It was tin. And you see the results. Like I said, I had to pry this off. I was talking to David Fernicola yesterday when I took the cap off. And he can verify what I'm saying and vouch for it. That I kept saying I can't get the cap off. I had to stick a knife in there and pry it around. And some of that rust or whatever it is crap fell off at that time. Look at it. I don't know what this white stuff is, but I know I don't want to use the soap, and I know it has very little scent now. All right? So think about it, folks. When someone comes out and they say, well, let me go back a little bit. Here's something that I've learned and something I'll share with you. Maybe it'll help you in your life. Whenever you're a person that has a strong opinion, I assume many of you out there who are watching are. If you can be used and you have some outlet and people watch you, they will attempt to manipulate you. It happens. They're going to take advantage of you and try to get what they can out of you. Certain types of folks will. When they realize, however, that they can't, when they realize that you can't be manipulated, right? That you're not on the take, that you're not in it for money, that you're not in it for profit. Sorry about that, had a brief interruption. Going back, what happens when they figure out that you can't really be manipulated is they begin to spread misinformation and they try to change the way others perceive you or how they see you. Since they can't control you, they seek to discredit you or change the way people see you. That's typically what happens. So keep that in mind too when you're in this hobby and when you have people with opinions. You consider who has something to gain, who doesn't, and you listen to the comments and you say, okay, well, this guy's selling something. If I do this, they're going to use more of it. I don't know. What do you think? You have to use your head, people. It's common sense, a lot of this, because I'm here to tell you. And I took a lot of crap over this. Here's the result. And it should have been enough for me to say this to you folks the first time. I shouldn't have had to go to this trouble, which really wasn't. You know, took 2 minutes. But I'm telling you now, if you care about the longevity of your soap, be careful with your blooming. Make sure you air it out completely. Please, I can't emphasize that enough. What do I care about? I care about you not ruining your soap. That's all I care about. I don't care about the rest. Bloom it in a different container if you want to be 100% safe. Maybe you bloom the heck out of your soaps from now and to eternity, and you never have a problem at all. That is entirely possible. But I'm here to tell you, under the circumstances that I have here, with my water, and the environment that I store my soaps, which is room temperature, there's no crazy fluctuations of temperature, this is what I got after a few months. And I didn't submerge this container in water. I didn't keep pouring water on it. And I didn't put anything else in it. It is what it is. And it is what it was the first time. All right? So the bottom line is this. Enjoy the products in the way that you want. And you don't have to take a side, bloom or anti-bloom. All I'm saying to you is be careful. All right, particularly I'm speaking to those of you on a budget who don't want to go out and rebuy things. I've had to do it, and my word should be enough. All right, maybe your water is different, maybe this won't happen to you, but it happened to me, and it's happened to more than one soap, and I've just shown you, and it's happened to others. So be careful when you're doing these things, and always keep in mind, what does someone else have to gain when they're feeding you these things? Because when you're looking at me, all you're doing is you're on this journey with me, and I am sharing my experience as it happens, and you have seen conclusively what can happen. What is this? I don't know. I'm not a chemist. But I know I don't want to use this soap, and I don't think you do either. Another thing you got to think about is, when you're using these brushes, you're putting them all over your face. Let's say you don't shower, or even if you do, you're getting oils from your face, maybe dead skin scales, who knows, and you're putting it in here, right? So then you're putting water in there, and you're getting all this stuff in the soap. And if it's wet, and then you're capping it off. I don't know. Can mold grow in there? Probably. Maybe not. I don't know. What I do know is I don't want to use this. All right? So please, be careful with your soap. Take care of it. Don't leave water in there. Let it air out. And I hope that helps you in maintaining the longevity of your soaps. Again, if you're not bothered by it, continue to bloom. It's not an issue of you being mad or you being a supporter of this guy or that guy. It has nothing to do with that. If it doesn't affect you, continue to bloom. If you're concerned about it, my advice to you is don't do it in here, or make sure at the bare minimum it airs completely out. That's my advice to you. I hope you appreciate it, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.